hope you're ready for this.
Gonna be fun.
You will not stand in my way.
Frostborn, hunger. This pleases me.
I do not fear you, mortal.
Your soul shall be mine.
Don't make me laugh.
Needs a brew? Oh, I do. Feel a shredding, baby. Let the battle begin.
So hello and welcome to the 54th episode of The Nexus Trolls, a podcast all about Here's the Storm, part of the Trolls.gg podcasting network. So I'm your host, Linus Daz Kilius. I'm joined today, as always, by Mystic. LiQuiud, however, he's at a fancy dinner party tonight. We actually delayed the show a little bit to make sure we could accommodate him. However, it's going a little bit later than planned. So he said, you know what, go ahead without me, guys. There's actually not a lot of HGC stuff to cover this week anyways. And he's actually going to be doing a special episode of Troll, not tonight, because he's just canceled the show tonight. But they're doing one on Monday with Trent, who's been on the show before. He's like an esports consultant and he covers esports, as well as Yitbaus, and I hope I'm pronouncing that right. He's the Roll20 manager. So if you're hungering for some HGC content, catch Troll HGC on Monday at 7:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. But that being said, me and Mystic will be holding down the fort today. So how is it going, Mystic?
It's going pretty good. There's a lot of Alexstraza going on.
A lot of dragons. I don't think I've had a single quick match game where there hasn't been an Alexstraza on both sides. And also, it seems that a lot of people are picking up healers right now too, because it used to be the problem, you go into a quick match game, there'd be no healers on either side. Now I feel like there's two or even three sometimes on both sides too. Are you noticing that as well?
Yeah, there's a lot of healers. It is a double healer meta, but Blizzard wasn't lying when they said this year was a good year for healers.
Yeah, and it is. And I mean, how cool is it? We've got a healer that turns into a freaking dragon. I'm pretty excited about playing Alexstraza more. And I like the way that she feels. I think she's a pretty awesome hero, and I'm glad that she's finally made her way in. Do you like her, or do you think they missed the ball here?
I think they did pretty good. I mean, she's pretty strong. And I mean, we got our first dragon in the Nexus. Well, second dragon actually, but first dragon in my book.
First and a half, I guess, right? Because Chromie's not even a full height hero, let alone a beast dragon. I mean, how cool would it be if they end up revisiting Chromie and reworking her so she has a new ultimate or something where she could turn into a dragon? That'd be pretty cool. Now that they've conquered that whole model issue with being able to have a big dragon in the game. It'd be cool to see it on Chromie, or even just maybe Deathwing or something in the future too. So we are missing LiQuiud, like I said, so we're not going to be covering much on the esports side of things. However, we are going to be diving in pretty deep to Alexstraza today, talking about some strategy, some builds with her, as well as the new Li Rework, which went live on Tuesday, along with Alexstraza. So those are going to be the focus of today's show. But before we get into that, as always, we'd like to thank our patrons over at patreon.com/trollsgg. The show, we're never going to charge anyone a dime for it, but if you're looking for a way to support us, you can head over there. You can definitely do so there. So our troll of the week this week, and I think she's actually called herself a troll in her first article that she wrote for us, and that's Annalise. And she is absolutely amazing. She covers HGC, and LiQuiud has even fashioned her as knowing more about HGC than he does, which is quite a feat, and watching more HGC than he does. But anyways, Annalise is one of the newest writers we have for our Trolls.gg site. She'll be putting in regular content and everything too, and she doesn't censor herself. So she's got a really great tone to her articles. But if you don't like potty words, you probably don't want to read those articles too, because she doesn't hold anything back. I find it very enjoyable, very entertaining. It's a nice kind of writing style, and I think it's very appropriate. So you should definitely check that out. Any of her articles on our site. So with all of that out of the way, let's jump into the news. And I got a fancy new little switchboard here. I just have to remember which button is the news button. There it is.
Someday, this will make a great story.
And it worked. Okay, so not a ton of news today. One thing that probably no one cares about except for maybe me and a few of us Canucks up north, BattleNet was always charging us Canadians in US dollars. Well, guess what? In about 24 hours or so probably when you're listening to this podcast, if you're not listening to it live, all the currency that you're going to be charged on BattleNet is going to be in Canadian dollars, if you're Canadian, obviously. That'd be horrible if like all of the US got charged in Canadian currency all of a sudden. They'd be awesomely confused because the conversion rates aren't exactly 1-to-1. But that's just like a nice little quality life change. You have to deal with conversions and doing that in your head. You know, our like $1 Canadian equals 20 American dollars or whatever it feels like sometimes. But other than that, we had a big patch released this Tuesday. Alexstraza, Li Rework, and there's a couple other little things. So I'm going to point those out and we'll chat about those a little bit before we get into Alexstraza and Li. So if you log in to the game anytime between now and December 11th, you will immediately get stained glass Alexstraza's and Hanzo portrait. It's part of the Dragons of the Nexus event. There's a quest involved with it too. If you play 5 games, you get Dragon Queen Alexstrasza portrait. After you complete that, you get another quest. If you play another 5 games, you get Dragon Strike portrait. And after that, you get a little bit more difficult quest to complete. You have to achieve 90 takedowns in winning games, and then you'll get the Stained Glass Dragon Knight portrait. So a few extra portraits for those who play a little bit more regularly. We've also had some AI improvements. The AI improvements that were, announced, whatever it was, 5-6 months ago, have now made their way to Greymane, Joanna, Ragnaros, Rhaegar, Rexxar, Valera, and Zarya. And I popped in AI a little bit just to try Alexstrasza out in the PTR. I'm not sure if you've had any AI time in Mystic, but I'm noticing Elite AI is a lot smarter. Now that's filtering down to more heroes now too. And it seems that, the improvements they've got to that decision-based tree making design is definitely showing off here. So a couple other changes too. Sergeant Hammer, when she's in siege mode, the area of effect will be better displayed. Not that you needed to know that you're getting hit by Sergeant Hammer anyways, but you know what? Now it just shows a little bit more of an indicator so you know exactly where that area is. We also had a map rotation update as well. We added to the rotation Battlefield of Eternity and Infernal Shrines, and we got rid of from the rotation Haunted Mines and Garden of Terror. People rejoicing everywhere for those two leaving the rotation, which means that our full rotation now is Battlefield of Eternity, Brax's Holdout, Cursed Hollow, Dragon Shower, Infernal Shrines, Sky Temple, Tomb of the Spider Queen, Towers of Doom, and Volskaya Foundry. I think this is one of the best map rotations I've seen yet. What do you think, Mystic?
Yeah, as I'm not a fan of Haunted Mines. Garden of Terror's and then as long as Blackheart's Bay is not in the rotation, I really don't like that map either. So
I used to love Blackheart's Bay, and it's starting to grate on me a little bit. I think maybe it's showing its age too much, just in favor of other maps. And I'd be perfectly happy if that one just disappeared forever. What do you think?
Well, okay. I mean, for the health of the game, I think it's okay being there because it is like one of the PvE maps. But that's the reason why I don't like it, is because it's a PvE map. I don't think it's fun personally, but since it is a option, I feel like it's fine being in the game.
Do you feel like there might be a rework coming to that map? Because I almost feel like I don't know why, but I've got the sense of foreboding that it's going to be changing in the near future. Or maybe that's how they're going to start changing or adding new maps, is maybe like revisiting others. They've talked about reworking existing maps in the past and how they're going to start doing that a little bit more. We've already seen it on some maps. They've like removed some smoke vents and like changed little placements around over the past few months. But I mean, if there's a map that needs a rework, I'd say that one definitely does.
I mean, if you told me that Blackheart's Bay was going to get a rework, I believe you. Because either they're going to go in two directions. One, they're going to make it like the rest of the maps where it's not PvE based, really. Like, so you can actually fight on the map. So I could see them doing that. Or they could go really hard into the PvE direction and just, this is the PvE map and we're changing it to like rework it, polish it up, make it new, but it's still going to be the PvE map.
What would you do to Blackheart's Bay to change it, to make it less PvE? Would you take away maybe like the coins dropping from mercenary camps, and maybe, you know, the chest spawning could be the actual objective that people fight over to get the coins?
I think it could be a capture the point map where like it could work kind of like Volskaya Industries, where there's an area in the middle and people fight over it for whatever reason, be it, you know, who collects the most coins in this amount of time just in this certain area, or, you know, what have you, and then whoever collects the most coins, that's where Blackheart fires his ship cannons, right? If you capture more coins in the middle than your opponent during this allotted time, then Blackheart will fire at your enemies. If they do, then they'll fire at your teams. So something like that.
I like how I just kind of sprung this. Like, we weren't planning on talking about Blackheart's Bay. I don't think it's actually like listed in our show notes in a single place at all. And suddenly we're talking about Blackheart's Bay reworks. I spring it on you. I just put you on the spot saying, how would you change it? You come up with a really innovative way to do so. I feel like you've been thinking about this for a while. Did you come up with that at the top of your head, or is this something that you've been like thinking about for a while?
I mean, it was just a combination of combining what the map already is with like some of the existing maps. So it was just a combination of those. I just came up with it.
Impressive. So we had a couple other small UI changes in the patch too. Capture points on Volskaya will now display contested text when it's actually contested. And I noticed this actually happens on Brax's Holdout as well. When I played a game earlier today, it'll say contested above the actual like control point when there's more than one hero on it too. Not that you probably need to know in that situation, but it's nice in Volskaya because it's a little bit less obvious when a point is contested. Core under attack notifications are apparently more apparent. I didn't notice this at all. I actually feel like I noticed a couple of bugs along with this. It keeps saying your core is under attack. I look and be like, you sure? Because I don't see anything attacking my core right now. But apparently they're supposedly more apparent. Maybe someone in our chat can let us know a little bit more about what they've seen from that. One neat thing too they've also added is when teams hit level 10 and level 20, you get a little in-game chat message that shows up just in your chat thread, which lets you know that one team reached level 10 or both teams have reached level 10. And I find that kind of handy too. I mean, they're really trying to, you know, push you and noticing when you do reach that kind of big power spike. So nice little quality of life change there. So you don't have to look at the top of the screen as hard as that is to see when someone reaches level 10 or 20.
What I think would have been a really cool idea, obviously pretty expensive on Blizzard's part for something this small, but would have been your announcer saying the enemy has heroic talent advantage or the enemy has storm talent advantage. That'd be a cool addition to your announcer, I think. But
Lord Boo to the rescue in the chat. He says that the health bar for the core will actually like glow when you're under attack, so it just becomes a bit more apparent in that regard, I guess. I was assuming that maybe it has something to do with like the audio cue, but maybe it's just the UI change there. So Li Ming is a little bit cheaper, well overdue for a discount. She's now 7,000 gold instead of 10,000 gold and 625 gems. We got two new announcers, which I really want to craft now, Alexstraza and Alarak. I think Alarak is going to be one of the most popular announcers too. I mean, a lot of people like Brightwing is probably one of the more popular ones now, but I mean, who wouldn't want an Alarak announcer? You must like that being a StarCraft fan.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Speaking of StarCraft too, you'll be proud of me. I actually spent much too long watching all the StarCraft cutscenes. Like someone's actually compiled them on YouTube and like made it more like a movie style format, so you can get through all of the from original StarCraft through Brood War, Wings of Liberty, Heart of the Swarm, and Legacy of the Void. Proud of me, I remembered all the names of the expansions there. And it ends up being like something like 12 hours total, but I watched it all. So now I actually know like where Alarak comes from, where like Artanis fits into the lore and everything too. But it makes me even more excited for Alarak coming in as an announcer. So is this gonna be the first thing you're gonna be crafting as soon as you have enough shards for it?
Oh, I have a pile of shards that I use selectively on things, and the Alarak announcer is going to be one of them.
Cool. You have to let me know how it is. You have to report back next week. Maybe that'll be your homework for the week. We had a whole bunch of skin tints and for a variety here. I'm not going to go over them. They just dropped. There was nothing new other than just color changes, so there's nothing notable there. Blizzard did say during BlizzCon actually that they're going to try and more drip feed content as opposed to just dumping it all at once. Like previously when we got new hero, like they dump Alexstraza, we get like a couple new, like maybe new legendary skins or big skins, maybe like, you know, a new big event or something, and it'd be this really big content drop. Well, they want to smooth that out a little bit, so like maybe next week they'll launch a couple new skins or whatever. So maybe that's why they're not doing like a big skin drop for one of the first times when new hero releases too. So, bug fix of the week. And there's a laundry list of bug fixes in this patch. They probably after BlizzCon are like, okay, we got a little bit of catching up to do. But the one that I like the best is apparently AI Ana wasn't smart enough because she tried to heal Garden Terrors, Dragonites, and Triglove Protectors. She'll no longer do that. So if you're in AI, you can breathe a sigh of relief. You've got an Ana AI on your team. She's not going to waste those healing darts on a half-health Garden Terror. Okay, so we're going to skip over LiQuid's Esports Corner. As I mentioned off the top of the show, Trolling HGC is not happening tonight. The next episode is going to be on Monday at 7:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. It's going to be LiQuid and Bags, as per usual. They're going to be joined by Trent. Trent's an esports consultant. He also covers esports news. And the manager of Roll20, Yitbos, will be joining as well. And I'm sure they're going to be talking about lots of roster apocalypse type things and you know, just the way that HGC is going to be looking as a league come next year. And they've got obviously two great guests to talk about with. So now we get into Alexstraza. I've had, ever since she dropped at BlizzCon and got a chance to play her on the floor, I've been waiting for her to get live, and now that she is, we've had a chance, both myself and Mystic, to form some opinions on her. We'll see if those opinions are similar, maybe different, see what our builds are, etc. But first, I'm going to go over just, you know, her basic kit, so everyone's on the same playing field here and knows what we're talking about. So Alexstraza, if you don't know already by our previous discussion, she has two forms. She's generally in human form, or I guess high elf form, blood elf form, either way. She's in her like elven humanoid form, and she has a trait called Dragon Queen where she can transform into her dragon form. And after 1.25 seconds after pressing the D button, she'll transform into a dragon, gain a whole bunch of extra health, about 500 health. While Dragon Queen is active, her abilities are empowered. So she's got a new set of abilities, and her basic attacks deal a lot more damage and heal heroes in kind of like an arc in front of her. You can actually target allies, but if they happen to be within the flamed blast radius while you're attacking an enemy or whatever you're targeting, they will heal for a tiny amount. It's not a big heal, but it's a little bit of a heal, and every bit helps. Additionally, too, and this is something that a lot of people overlook, incoming stuns, roots, slows, and blinds are also reduced on her by 50%. So she's getting the treatment that, you know, the Dragonites not used to have before they became unstoppable. So it lasts for 15 seconds. It's on a 150-second cooldown, so you gotta be careful when you use this. It's very heroic-esque. I mean, it's longer than most heroic cooldowns. And one extra interesting thing that we didn't talk about last show too, because I didn't realize this, all of her cooldowns get an instant reset as soon as she pops into dragon form, which is kind of important because she does have a couple abilities, well, one ability in particular that's on a long cooldown, which is her W. So you can pop off a W, go into dragon form, and you've got another one instantly available after that for some big healing. So her kit, her Q is called Gift of Life. This is her primary, arguably healing ability. It's on a 7-second cooldown. Doesn't cost any mana. It costs you life. 15% of your current health, not maximum health, current health. And then you heal an ally for 150% of the amount that you sacrificed. So obviously this works better if you're at high health. And if you're at low health, you're at 1 health, you're not healing at all or a very significant amount. So Alexstraza is a hero that you want to make sure you maintain her at high health as possible. But unfortunately, one of her main abilities sacrifices health, which makes it a very interesting juggling act. Her Q, when in dragon form, becomes Breath of Life. The cooldown goes from 7 seconds down to 3 seconds, and it no longer sacrifices any of her life. Instead, just heals an ally for 20% of her current health. Now, interestingly, and I was talking to Mystic about this off camera, and I tried this out in try mode, her Q actually heals for less when in dragon form. It says 20%. And when she's in human form, she sacrifices 15% of her current health. The only caveat there is when she's in human form, the text also reads she sacrifices 15% of her health and heals for 150% of what she sacrificed. Because when she's in Dragon Queen form, she doesn't actually sacrifice any health. She only heals for 20% of her current health. In human form, if you do the math, 150% of 15% is actually 22.5. So all being equal, I mean, she does have a higher health pool when she's in Dragon form. And the cooldown is is less than half, so she's ultimately doing more over time, but each individual heal is actually a little bit less when she's in Dragon Queen form if she's at the same health as her human counterpart. Okay, so her W, Abundance. This is one of the most telegraphed heals in the game. It puts a big circle on the ground, similar in size to Malfurion Root. Its cooldown 16 seconds, 75 mana. She plants a seed of healing that blooms after 3 seconds. So you'll see the little glyph on the ground for 3 whole seconds. Does nothing until the 3 seconds are up. And then when it does go off, it heals all allied heroes inside the glyph for 20% of their maximum health. When she's in Dragon Queen form, same cooldown, except it's a little bit larger of an area, and it heals for 30% of their maximum health. So a little bit boost to the heal there. On her E, she's got Flame Buffet, or as Dungtrain likes to call, Flame Buffet. It's on a 2-second cooldown. It costs 50 mana. So you gotta be careful with your mana if you're not hitting these, and you'll see why in a second, because in 2 seconds, 50 mana, it's a lot of mana that you could be potentially using. You launch a fireball. You burn enemies hit, and this includes all enemies, including minions, for 75 damage over 5.5 seconds. So like pretty much insignificant amounts of damage over 5 seconds too. So pretty much nothing. Where it does come into play is if you hit them again, it does an additional 125 bonus damage upon impact. And it slows them for 40 seconds, decaying over 2 seconds. So you have a little bit of CC, you get bonus damage, and it also refunds the mana cost. So you want to be hitting that E on the same burnt targets over and over again to make sure you're not spending mana, because if you're missing those targets, you're hitting that E constantly, you're going to run out of mana fast. So just a little note here too, this actually works on minions. So if you're clearing a wave, just make sure you've got like at least one minion that you're hitting that already has burnt when you hit with your next one, then it won't cost you any mana at all. And the same goes for heroes, obviously too. When you're in Dragon Queen form, this ability changes completely. Because this is more like your Flame Buffet becomes more like your auto attack when you're in Dragon Queen form. Now that means that your E is changed to Wing Buffet. It's on a 4-second cooldown instead of 2-second cooldown. It deals damages to an enemy in a big arc, knocking them back and slowing them by 50% for 3 seconds. A great disengage, especially if you're popping your D because you're in danger. First thing you want to do, toss out that Wing Buffet, move everyone back, and then give yourself a little bit of breathing room. Pun intended. So that's a great ability too. And again, you just want to make sure you're constantly hitting your existing flame buffeted targets with the Flame Buffet over and over again. So we've got 2 ultimates. Lifebinder, 75-second cooldown, 100 mana. This is where Alexstraza will bind her life force to an allied hero. After 2 seconds, the hero with a lower percentage of health between her and the target will be set to the same health percentage as the higher health target. So if Alexstraza is at 1%, she puts on someone with 100%, it'll bring her back up, and vice versa to the target too, if the target has less health than Alexstraza. Again, incentive for Alexstraza to stay at high health. You can probably get a sense of how to counter Alexstraza just talking, like for me talking through her abilities here. Her other ultimate, Cleansing Flame. 90-second cooldown, 100 mana, so cooldown's a little bit longer. After 1.25 seconds, you take to the sky. You're not targetable when you're in the sky. You fly off the map. You drop 5 fireballs over 6 seconds to the position of the mouse cursor. Every time a fireball drops, the range of this, which is fairly large, it's about the length of like a screen, you can move your cursor to the edge of that range and drop the next fireball. Your cursor will, your abilities will recenter there, and you can do it again another distance, another screen length distance away. So you can actually use this to traverse or chase a fair distance fairly quickly and get around the map pretty easily, because after those 6 fireballs are done, The fifth one, or sorry, the one after the sixth one, will actually land Alexstrasza where the cursor is. So it's a very good movement ability as well. It'll also not only damage heroes that it hits, but it'll actually heal heroes for twice as much as the damage would be. So you get 300 health and 150 damage. So it's actually a pretty solid healing ability too, for if you need like an AoE heal, for instance, too, if you're in that kind of situation there, as well as an escape. Okay, that's her kit. So, Mystic, let's talk about some of the things we've noted here that we want to talk about. Double healer. We talked about it a little bit off the top. Is Alexstrasza in a situation where she requires a second healer to shine? Go.
I mean, in my opinion, she is. Like, not to say you can't solo heal with Alexstrasza, but she is much more powerful when she has a healer that can help her keep up the healing output of if the fight is going too fast for her abundance to heal, and her other only heal is like her ultimate, which, you know, Cleansing Flame is a really good ultimate, but it's on a 90-second cooldown, which is actually warranted for that kind of skill. And then her Q, which if you take the Q build, then you're going to be trying to spam that to heal your team, and then your health is just going to go lower and lower. So it really helps to have a secondary healer, so when you use the heal, then they can heal you back up to full or above 75% health, and then, you know, you can keep healing other people as well.
So if you were going into a draft situation, someone takes Alexstrasza ahead of you, you're looking to take that second healer to help support Alexstrasza, what healers do you think pair the best with her?
I think almost any other healer works, but yeah, Ana's really good because of the grenade and the abundance heal. That's an insane amount of healing, because if your entire team is in it plus heal grenade, well, it's almost like a half an ancestral, right, where it heals everybody almost back up to full. And then other healers, I'd say Medic is pretty good, because Medic is really good at healing someone to full. Even if it is single target, then you can keep her above 75% health, and then she can keep healing, and Medic is just like a funnel almost at that point, right? It's almost like a Gul'dan thing where, you know, if you heal Gul'dan, then he uses his health as mana. In this case, Alexstrasza uses your healing as more healing.
Yeah. Well, how do you feel her damage is then too? Because in those double healer comps, one situation that you get to, especially in less competitive play, is you might have a lack of damage to help finish, right? Because you're sacrificing an assassin or a bruiser or whatever for another healer, right? You're losing potentially length, or you're potentially losing damage, and because you want that extra sustain. Are you still making that sacrifice with an Alexstrasza double healer comp, or does she have some damage to speak of?
I'm gonna say, just because of Flame Buffet, she has mediocre wave clear. It's not poor. It's not, you know, it's not super good, but it's mediocre, right? She has wave clear, because when you throw your Flame Buffet at a target, then that uses up your mana. However, if you throw out another Flame Buffet while they're on fire, then it does extra damage, and it refunds your mana. So you can just keep spamming that Flame Buffet, and that is your teamfight damage, that is your lane clear, and then if you really need more teamfight damage, then you could just go Dragon Form, and then you have extra healing and then extra teamfight damage.
Yeah, I quickly learned that I did a lot better in lane if I just started using my Flame Buffet over and over again on the minions, instead of trying to hit whatever hero was in lane with me too, because you'd never lose mana. You'd clear the lane, like I said, semi quickly, but like, you know, a lot faster than you would if you weren't throwing out the Flame Buffets. And it ended up being a lot easier to deal with, because minions don't try and juke your E's, where, I mean, you know, skill shots, if you're trying to stutter stepping target, might not be so easy. So, yeah, Ana too, incidentally enough, not only does she work well with Alexstrasza, she's a great counter to Alexstrasza too. Her abundance heal, which can be a significant amount of her healing output, is, like I mentioned before, very telegraphed. You've got 3 seconds. The enemy team can see the glyph on the ground. They know when that's going off. You can just lob a grenade over there and completely negate it. Are there any other good counters to Alexstrasza's abundance that you can think of? I mean, Blizzard chose one. I think this was Junkrat's little grenade, or not grenade, concussion mine. They showed that to us in the video, right? Are there any others you can think of?
I mean, concussion mine, medic grenade, a lot of AoE stuff. Like you said, the Ana grenade, anything that's AoE. Because can you imagine if everybody groups up because of an Alexstraza heal, and then suddenly, wait a second, there's a VP. Oh, now there's a ETC starting his slide into the VP. And then there's going to be like a frost ring on top of that or something. And yeah, that's, even though you get the heal, and even though it's a pretty big heal, you probably don't want your team just like hit by everything just because everybody wants that heal.
Yeah, you gotta be so careful because everyone sees that on the ground. And everyone's like, "Okay, let's get in there, that one spot," and like you're kind of you're creating almost like a choke point because everyone knows on the enemy team exactly where you're going. So, like you said, like that mosh pit, you want to get a 5-man mosh, you wait for that abundance heal to come off when they're at half health. I mean, yeah, they'll get the heal out of it, but you get a pretty sick mosh coming out of the situation as well. So, I mean, there's a lot of counterplay, which is, I think, one of the reasons that they could get away with, a fairly sizable heal for like your whole team. And it's a very interesting mechanic they have as well, that you're like kind of fighting over a point just to get that heal, which could be good, could be bad. And I think that's going to be the measure of a good Alexstrasza versus a bad one, is where she places those abundances. So dragon form, you think it's safe to say it's OP when you're in dragon form?
Ew, there's one weakness. You can't mount.
Oh, yes, you can hearth back though. I did notice. But if one thing, not that it'll probably affect you too much, but if you start hearthing back when you're in dragon form, when you switch away from dragon form to human form, it actually cancels your hearth. So I came across that random situation in a game today. But still, if you're starting to hearth and you notice dragon form's expiring, no point in hearthing quite yet. You might as well wait till it's done expiring. So when's the best time, and like how should you be using your dragon form too? I mean, it's precious. 150-second cooldown. This is what makes her powerful for that moment. We always talk about, Abathur adding the extra half hero to a team fight, right? The 4.5 heroes versus 5. Like, I mean, I feel like when Alexstrasza is in dragon form, you can be, especially if you're at high health, like a hero and a half almost in a fight. So when you use it, and like how do you use it? Do you do it at the beginning of the fight, in the middle of the fight? Do you make sure you're at high health? Do you use it as like when you're in a dangerous situation, get that bonus heal? Talk to me, Mystic. What do you do?
There's a specific level 1 talent that if you hit a burning hero 20 times, then you get the reward of hitting a burning hero with Flame Buffet, reduces Dragon Queen, which is the turning into the dragon, cooldown by 5 seconds. If you have this, you just use dragon whenever you want. It doesn't really matter. Like, you're gonna have it up really soon no matter what, honestly. If you don't have this talent, then you use it when the team fight has already initiated, or you get engaged on, either one. You use it when the team fight is already initiated, and then just start blasting. Make sure, because it has the reset, to use your spells first. Like, use your Q, use your W. I mean, your Q will give you a little less health, but it doesn't matter. So use your Q, use your W, use your E, I guess, and then turn into the dragon, and then all of them will be reset. So you can put off another W, another Q, another E, and then, yeah, it's really, really freaking strong, because it makes you basically almost immune to CC. It gives you that 500 extra health, which is pretty massive, because they don't want to focus you at that point. Even if they do focus you, then you have the Life Binder, which you could use, or even the Cleansing Flame, which takes you off the map entirely. And so they can't focus the healer, and she's still healing.
Yeah, and I mean, one thing I've noticed a lot of Alexstrasza is, I guess, not doing is her Q, because it doesn't sacrifice health anymore. It's just based on cooldown ability. It doesn't even cost any mana. So you can just Q constantly, and it actually benefits you more to be using it like earlier in the fight, because you'll be at higher health, presumably. I mean, unless you're getting healed up. So you're going to be putting out bigger heals, like when you first get into your dragon form, as opposed to later, unless you're getting healed by a secondary healer. So make sure you're using that Q as frequently as you can, because those are free heals. And I mean, you've only got 16 seconds in dragon form, so you got to make the most of it. So let's talk about builds, because I think there's 3 builds shaking out, if I'm not mistaken. The build that I find myself going for over and over again is kind of like the Flame Buffet slash, I guess, dragon build. Empowering your flame buffet and trying to keep dragon form up as long as possible and the cooldown on it as low as possible. This seems to be kind of everyone's go-to build. Do you have any other builds? I mean, we're going to be going into the actual talent trees in a second. Do you have any other builds generally you want to mention before we get into that?
There is the Q build, and there's the W build. There's a build for every skill that she has, basically. Yeah.
So tell me about like the Q build, for instance. Is this one where, I mean, there's a lot of talents in her talent tree. She's got to stay above 75% health. This is Q build, I think, if I'm not mistaken, the one where you probably have to stay above 75% health most of the time to be effective?
Mm-hmm. Most of her talents of her Q build require her to stay above 75% health. And there is a talent at level 7, it's called Life Blossom, where if you heal a target and you're above 75% health, then it will generate like a Life Blossom, and then you can pick it up and your next one will be free. That is basically the key to a solo healer Alexstraza build, unless you want to go the Fire Within, because that is also something you can go, but that requires hitting people with the Flame Buffet, and then you restore health that way. So it's like there's 2 ways you can restore health, but you need something for that.
And I mean, we'll be getting into it in a second, but her level 7 talent tier is kind of that tier where suddenly she can, either mitigate some of the damage that she's doing herself on her Q or give herself extra health in one fashion or another. And we'll get into that in a second. I guess the W build, where would you be taking that, and just kind of to give people a bit of prep before we get into it?
I'd say ones where you have a lot of tanks because it heals a percentage of your maximum health, or ones where you have, or team comps where they have a lot of AoE. Because in team fights, if they have a lot of AoE, then you can put your W down, transform into a dragon, put another W down, and then you're just going to get massive AoE healing.
It seems like a W build could be a dangerous one because you're pumping a lot into an ability that's on a 16-second cooldown. So you got to make sure those Ws land proper, or else you're, gimping yourself, I guess, in the long run.
Yeah.
Okay, let's look over the talents. We'll just kind of breeze over these. We'll talk about which ones fit into the Q, which ones fit into the E, and which ones fit into the W build. So starting on level 1, we've got Live and Let Live. While Alexstraza is above 75% health, and you'll notice a trend here about that, Gift of Life's cooldown, that's her Q, recharges 100% faster. She's also got Circle of Life. This is a regeneration globe collecting quest. After collecting 15 globes, Abundance, her W, heals for an additional 5% of maximum health. And after collecting 25 regeneration globes, Abundance Healing Burst creates a regeneration globe. So you can kind of get these regen globes that you can keep using over and over again every time you use your W, which is pretty cool. And those obviously work for the whole team too. So there's a little bit of mana, sustained mana that you get to everyone there as well. And finally, on level 1, there's Flames of Fury. This is another questing talent. Hit 20 burnt heroes with Flame Buffet, so they have to be already burnt. Hitting a burning hero with Flame Buffet will reduce Dragon Queen's cooldown by 5 seconds as a reward. So once you get that, you can get your Dragon form cooldown down quite significantly, and this actually synergizes really well with level 20 talent that we're going to be talking about soon. So is it safe to say, Mystic, Live and Let Live is where you go for the Q? It's above 75% health. Your Q cooldowns faster. Circle of Life, Regen Globe collecting quest, that's the W. And Flames of Fury, the quest talent to burn burnt targets, is your E build. And these synergize extraordinarily well with later talents, and I gotta commend Blizzard for making these kind of talent tree like paths have such synergy as well. I mean, I guess it depends what build you're going here, but just going back to the general builds again, like where do you see like the Q? So is a Q just like the solo healer build? Is that what you're telling me? W is like if you've got like a heavy frontline or against AoE, and then E build is more like your general all-purpose build?
Yeah, because the W is on too long of a cooldown, I'd like to say, for a solo healer build, because if you want to take that as a solo healer build, it's kind of hard because it means your team goes in, they all come out, and then you heal them up. Or your team goes in, they get that W heal, they get like one of your Q heals, and then that's it, right? With the Q build, it allows you to spam Q more often, which is a lot more versatile and a lot more useful than, you know, just having one heal of a W that's really big, but then it's on a 16-second cooldown.
Yep. So level 4, we got Surge of Vitality. Abundance's Healing Burst grants allied heroes 30% movement speed for 3 seconds. That's the W. Heat Exhaustion. Increase Flame Buffet's initial slow from 40 to 60%, giving you a little extra CC there. And then Exuberance. While above 75% health, gain 15% movement speed. So again, we've got the Q, the W, and the E kind of synergizing here again. Exuberance, I guess, being the notable exception there because it's more just like a general above health movement speed talent, but it goes along with the Q build. So Exuberance, above 75% health, gain movement speed. That works for the Q build. Heat Exhaustion, getting more CC out of the Flame Buffets since you're going to be tossing those out like crazy anyways. And Surge of Vitality, giving you the extra burst movement speed. I guess if you're going to be using W's to a greater effect, you might as well be giving people movement speed as well. Anything you want to talk about on this talent here?
They're very self-explanatory. One of them's Q, one of them's the E, one of them's W, right?
I was looking at this trying to like be like, how can we analyze this? And really it is pretty self-explanatory. It's pretty obvious which ones filter in. So we'll move along to level 7. And again, like I mentioned before, this is the talent tier that gives you a little bit more self-sustain as Alexstraza. So Life Blossom, this is the Q ability that Mystic talked about earlier. If you're above 75% health, your Q creates a life blossom at the target's location, a little like flower you got to collect. After you collect it, your next gift of life, your next Q, will cost no health. So as long as you can stay above 75% health, you can use your Q on cooldown without having to worry about it. And you get the bigger heals because you're at high health too than you would if you're at lower health. So this makes Q a lot more sustainable by not sacrificing health. Verdant Flourish is the next talent on this tier. Alexstraza receives 30% more healing from Abundance, so she can give herself a lot more healing just off that, and 100% more healing from Regen Globes, which she can incidentally create with her W's if she completes her level 1 quest. That would be for the W build. And then finally for the E build, and this is really the bread and butter of the E build, at least part of it anyhow, Fire Within. Hitting a burning hero with Flame Buffet heals Alexstrasza for 10% of her maximum health. So you hit a few heroes with this that are already burnt, you're getting a lot of your health back. So what do you think about here, Mystic? I feel like Fire Within in level 7 is a big power spike, especially for her E build, because suddenly you can use your Qs a little bit more frequently because you're, I don't know if you're hitting your skill shots, healing yourself up with each flame buffet you toss out.
Yeah, the E talent here, Fire Within, is really strong. I'd say even if you're taking the Q or the W build, you can take Fire Within here if you want, because, you know, her flame buffet is so spammable. But yeah, there's once again a talent for every ability here, Q, W, and E.
Yes, the going theme with Alexstraza. So let's look at her heroics then, shall we? We've got Life Binder and Cleansing Flame. The cooldowns, 75 seconds for Life Binder, 90 seconds for Cleansing Flame. I tend to go to Cleansing Flame where she jumps into the sky. It's useful as an escape, useful as almost like a pseudo global because you can get across the map or chase someone if you need to. You get some AoE heals out of it. It just seems like it's got like everything in the kitchen sink baked into one ability. Whereas Life Binder, it's kind of like an ancestral healing, but situational. I mean, you can use it on yourself, but you got to make sure that you've got high health or your opponent or the other target's got high health in order for you to get the most out of it. Do you like both abilities here, or you favor one over the other?
While I like the concept of Life Binder, I think Cleansing Flame is just too strong. Like you said, it has too much. It has everything. It has damage, it has healing, it makes Alexstrasza invincible, and it's a global. It's like that's so much stuff baked into one ability. Not only that, but it's not even 100-second cooldown, it's 90 seconds.
And if you pull it off, it's like literally one of the best escapes in the game, because no one can catch you if you're traveling, you know, whatever, 6-7 screen lengths away from where you initially cast it. Yes, there's a cast wind up for it. You can get stunned or whatever CC'd out of it. However, if you do pull it off, Doesn't matter how much health you have, you're getting out of there. I love that ultimate, and I think it's actually one of the best ones in the game in terms of, like you said, like utility. You just got everything you need.
Not only that, but if you're in dragon form, there's no cast time. It's just instant.
Oh, are you serious?
You just go.
I didn't even know that. That's amazing. So even a better escape than if you're in dragon form. All right, level 13. She's got dragon. This is, I think, a more of a situational one. Nothing really lines up with QW or he here. So her first one's dragon skill. She gains 30 armor when stunned, silenced, or rooted for 2 seconds after, or sorry, while she's rooted and she casts it. I'm gonna start again. She gains 30 armor while stunned, silenced, or rooted, and for 2 seconds after. That's the way I should have said it. Can only trigger once every 10 seconds. So very similar to other abilities we see in the game along these lines. She's also got Pacify. This has a cooldown of 60 seconds. It's activatable. She can activate it to slow and reduce the enemy hero's damage by 50% for 3 seconds. So this is very much like a shrink ray type ability. And then Life Unbound, cooldown of 90 seconds. You can activate it to heal an allied hero for 15% of their maximum health and deal 200 damage to nearby enemies. Now, if you heal a stunned, rooted, or silenced ally, it reduces Life Unbound's cooldown by 30 seconds, and you can't use it on yourself. So here, safe to say situational, I guess. A lot of CC, you're probably going Dragon Skills. If you've got that kind of hyper carry, you're probably going Pacify. If you need the extra healing, you're probably going Life Unbound.
Yep, all situational.
Fair enough. Level 16, we've got Tough Love. While Alexstraza is above 75% health, Gift of Life grants its target 20 armor for 2 seconds. A little Uther ability there. Overprotective, heroes healed by abundance gain a shield for 3 seconds equal to 60% of the amount healed. And then finally, Draconic Discipline, increased Dragon Queen's duration by 9 seconds. I'm sorry, Mystic, QW or E, I can't not take Draconic Discipline, making Dragon Queen's duration an extra 9 seconds, bringing it up to 25, up from 16. What do you like here?
Tough Love is really good for Q build, and then W is pretty good for W build, and then Draconic Discipline, I'd have to say you can use that in E build if you want. If you don't want the, even if you go Q or the W build, you can actually go Draconic Discipline because it means that it makes your duration longer, right? So that means you're going to get more Qs and more Ws out, and they're stronger while you're in your dragon form. So you can take it. It's a talent that you can take, and it's fairly strong.
Now, level 20, we've got Ritual of Life. Lifebinder activates 3 times over 6 seconds. What do you think of this one? I never got a chance to take it because I always take Cleansing Flame, but having that option to like tie your life to someone else, I mean, maybe it's useful if a target's getting like burnt down every 2 seconds, you can bring it back to full almost. But is this just way too situational?
I mean, Lifebinder itself is situational, or more situational, right, compared to Cleansing Flame. But I could see the use of this if you have like a carry that you have to save. A fight starts, right, and then the first person dives onto him. Activate Lifebinder, and then activate like Q or something, right? And then so what it essentially means is that the diver or multiple divers have to kill either you, the other person, or both of you within like the 2 seconds, right? Because it activates, if it's 3 times over 6 seconds, it's once every 2 seconds. So every 2 seconds, you could essentially be getting a full heal through Lifebinder.
It's funny. It's one of those situations. It's like Dehaka when he's got his whatever his ultimate is, where he regens for the damage taken. Adaptation. It's kind of like that too. You're like, should we really be focusing on this guy? Because if you can do it fast enough, you can get through the health before it actually procs. But if you don't, it's wasted damage, right? And like you said, you got to make that interesting decision. Do you go for Alexstraza or do you go for the diver? You kind of almost want to go for both simultaneously somehow to make sure you negate that or burn one down fast enough that you kill one of them before it goes off for the second or third time or first time. So on Ruby Wings is the next one here, and this is healing or damaging heroes 8 or more times with Cleansing Flame. Activates Dragon Queen for 15 seconds upon landing. Again, another one I never ended up taking just because I like the other two so much. Do you see a use case for this here to extend Dragon Form for an extra 15 seconds? Because I mean, like, I feel like I don't necessarily want to use it when in human form. Like, it comes in handy when you're in dragon form, and I guess maybe it extends the duration when you land, but it feels like you might be wasting it a little bit if you're already in dragon form to begin with, because you end up losing out a little bit on your dragon form.
I could see it, because like if you're pushing or if there's a tough fight going on that you need dragon form is very strong. So if you need it, I can totally see you picking that up. And 15 extra seconds is insane because dragon form is so strong. If you couple that with the 9 extra seconds from the level 16 talent, Draconic Discipline, that essentially means that you have like, what,
40 seconds
almost,
of uptime, I guess.
40 seconds of dragon time. It's
if
like,
you plan it properly, yeah, it's pretty aggressive.
yeah, if you're dragon for that long, it's pretty insane.
The fight hopefully will be over before that's finished. So Ancient Flame is the next one. While Dragon Queen is active, Alexstraza's basic abilities apply Flame Buffet, but her attack speed is also reduced by 25%. Now, where this comes in real handy is the E build, for 2 reasons. You reduce because you're applying Flame Buffet with your auto attacks, and you're doing it in a very big AoE cone. This synergizes with her questing ability at level 1 on her E. So assuming you've gotten that quest by level 20, which I sure hope you have, every time you auto attack a hero that's already burnt, you're reducing your Dragon Queen cooldown by 5 seconds. So that works proactively for when you come out of Dragon Queen form. It'll just be reduced by, however many burnt heroes you hit while you were in Dragon Queen form. So you'll get, I was doing in try mode on Arthas, and I got my Dragon Queen down to 60-second cooldown after I came out of it. So, and that was just on one hero, but if you're doing it to multiple heroes too, you can almost have it just up almost all the time if you're lucky enough to spam your auto attack on a lot of heroes. Also, she gets 10% heal every time she hits a hero that has Flame Buffet applied to him with her auto attacks. So she becomes insane sustain and crazy uptime on her Dragon Queen. Huge power spike. I think if they ever need to nerf her, maybe this is a place they look, because it seems a little strong with the synergies there. And finally, she's got Blessing of the Red. It's on a 40-second cooldown. This is kind of cool too. I played around with this. You can actually activate to grant an allied hero, and any allied hero, 500 bonus maximum health until they die. And so you can use this again and again, not on the same hero, mind you, but you can use it on the whole team. So everyone on the team gets 500 bonus health, except for yourself, because you can't use it on yourself. So now we've gone over level 4. Ancient Flame, Blessing of the Red, Ritual of Life on Ruby Wings. What are you thinking is the best here, Mystic?
I mean, I think if you're going E-build, Ancient Flame. And I really like Blessing of the Red, I'm not going to lie, because since it gives 500 bonus maximum health to anybody that you choose until they die, it means you can make a healer, not a squishy. It can make a Valera, not a squishy, which, she already has so many escapes, she's basically not going to die at that point. You can make a tank, a little bit tankier. You could say it has diminishing returns on tanks because, they already have so much health, but if you give ETC the 500 bonus maximum health, it's like you never got that health nerf, right?
Yep. And your abundance ends up healing for more because their maximum health is higher as well. So you're also proccing your W's there as well, using Blessing of the Red too. So that's Alexstraza in general. A lot of fun. She's hit. When I checked hot stocks, of course, it wasn't very many games, so you can always take that with a grain of salt because people are just trying her out for the first time, probably not very well. She had a pretty low win rate. I think it was one of the lowest in the game. I imagine that's going to go up slowly over time, though. So hopefully she's in a good place, but I guess we'll find out, and we'll see which builds shake out as the strongest ones, because usually one tends to do that over the coming days. So moving on to our next hero, Li. I never thought we'd talk about Li in depth on the show, but she got a rework this week on Tuesday, along with Alexstraza dropping. So let's just talk about that a little bit. I'm going to talk about her ability changes, then maybe we'll have a little bit of a discussion about what she's like now, and then we'll go into her talent tree. So Fast Feet, her trait. Upon taking damage, this is typically what it used to be. You gain 10% movement speed for 1 second. It was a great escape, right? It was like why Lilies are so hard to catch. Now they also added in basically what the Kung Fu Hustle at level 20 was into this baseline trait. Her basic ability cooldowns now recharge 50% faster while Fast Feet is active. Yeah, that sounds pretty strong, and they probably knew that too, right? So they had to adjust her other abilities too. So they changed Healing Brew a little bit. This is your spammable Q button. Cooldowns increased from 3 to 4 seconds. Range is reduced from 7 to 6. And mana cost was reduced from 30 to 25, presumably because you're going to be casting more often. Cloud Serpent, her W. Mana cost was increased from 30 to 40. Cooldowns were increased from 10 to 12 seconds. Attack speed was increased from 3/4 of a second to 1 full second attack per second. Sorry, 1 full attack per second. And the damage increase was from 25 to 27, so small damage increase as well. And also, they baked in this ability too, where each time a Cloud Serpent attacks, the hero it is attached to is healed for a small amount. So you used to have the talent into that, but now it comes baseline. Your Blinding Wind cooldown was increased from 9 to 12 seconds. Hurts hard when she's trying to blind those auto attackers now. The duration was also reduced from 2 to 1.5 seconds. And the mana cost was decreased from 35 to 30. But a little bit of a nerf to Blinding Wind there, I guess, because a lot of people are going blind build. Another big change she got was to Jug of 1,000 Cups. The cooldown was reduced from 70 to 20 seconds. What? Well, there's a little downside. And I remember reading that, I was like, are you kidding me? Like, that's a huge buff. But now it can be canceled early. And each time an ally is healed by Jug of 1,000 Cups, its cooldown gets increased by 2 seconds, up to an additional 50 seconds, which basically means if you use it for its full duration, you're healing everyone the whole time, it'll be on a 70-second cooldown. But now you can make the choice, be like, okay, I've healed everyone enough. I don't want it to be on a 70-second cooldown, so you have the option, flexibility, to keep it on a shorter cooldown and sacrifice potentially less healing. Okay, so Mystic. All this being said, I mean, there's a ton of new talents and a bunch of stuff moved around. But generally, if I wanted to play Li, is it still the same head mashing the keyboard? Can I do well with Li just by mashing my Q and E buttons?
Basically, sure. Like with no talents, she's exactly the same. However, with the talents, you have to do a little bit more thinking.
Okay, so she's no longer just stand in the general area and hit Q then. How she be playing Li different than you used to be playing Li?
You want to be taking a little bit of damage. I mean, originally, Fast Feet, right? It was something that if you got hit, you could get out of there quickly. Now, you want to get hit. You want to get hit with, like, DOTs. And with the DOTs, it just means your Fast Feet is active and your basic ability cooldowns recharge 50% faster, so you want to get hit by that a lot. And then she has some other talents that have to do with the number 50%, so you're gonna have to look at that. So
okay, so she plays a little bit differently then, so I guess it's just something to keep in mind while we're going through this talent tree. Now, does she still have similar builds to the ones she had before? I mean, it used to be, I mean, I might be dating myself a little bit here. I'm not even sure if Dragon Build was still a thing pre-change, but Dragon Build was one that I used to take on Li back in the day, or Blind Build as well for her, what used to be pretty powerful too. Are these still options that Li can go, or have they changed with her rework?
She still has those builds. I'd say that she doesn't have as much of an E build anymore because a lot of the E builds were like all clustered up and put on one talent tier. So yeah, all of them on that talent tier are damage basically.
All right, let's breeze through some of the talents here. We're not going to go too in depth on Li. She's not nearly as exciting as Alexstraza, but we still want to cover it nevertheless. So level 1, she's got free drinks. If Healing Brew heals a target under 50% health, its cooldown is reduced by 1 second and its mana cost is refunded. Wind Serpent, that's her Cloud Serpent's cooldown is reduced by 3 seconds each time you hit a hero with Blinding Wind. And Eager Adventurer, increase the duration of Fast Feet by 50% and mana regeneration is increased by 150% while Fast Feet is active. What are you taking on level 1 here, Mystic?
Well, if you had infinite mana, you might go for Wind Serpent, but I'd say Eager Adventure because there's 2 talents here that allow you to regenerate mana, or quote-unquote regenerate mana. The first one is free drinks, but that'll has the condition of your target being below 50% health, but Eager Adventure when your fast feet is active, which should be most of the time because you want to be taking little bits of debris damage, so you can regenerate your mana and get your cooldown reduction from fast feet. So I think Eager Adventure is the way to go.
So if I'm holding down my Q button, am I going to have mana issues with Lili if I take Eager Adventure?
Unless you're taking damage, you might. If you're just sitting in the back, not taking any damage at all, and then you're just spamming the Q button, you're probably going to run out of mana eventually.
Okay. Mental note, take damage so don't run out of mana. Level 4, we've got Serpent Sidekick. Each time a Cloud Serpent attacks a hero, its duration is increased by half a second. Note that it attacks once every second, so this isn't like infinite increase in duration, but you can potentially increase it by about 50%. Hindering Winds, Blinding Winds slows heroes by 30% for 2 seconds, and Safety Sprint. Activate to gain fast feet and increase its movement speed bonus to 30% for 2 seconds. It's on a 30-second cooldown. What are you taking in level 4, Mystic?
I think the most versatile thing that you would want to go is Safety Sprint because it allows you to manually activate fast feet for 2 seconds. And, that allows the mana regeneration and the cooldown reduction to go with your first talent with Eager Adventure and, baseline fast feet. And it just means like if you're low and you can't be taking any more damage, you can just activate this to get away and get that extra, that extra boost. The other talents are good for I guess if you want to go E-build, you can go E-build there. And the Serpent Sidekick is really good for the W build that eventually crops up. It eventually comes online at 16.
Okay, so you gotta wait a while to get that W build going, then we'll see what happens level 16. I'm now kind of curious. So level 7, we've got the good stuff. Healing Brew heals for an extra heal over time and gives 100% more heal over time if fast feet's active. Lightning Serpent, Cloud Serpent's attacks bounce to 2 additional heroes for 50% damage and healing. And then Let's Go! Activate to heal an allied hero for a small amount and make them unstoppable for 1 second on a 40-second cooldown, aka Cleanse. This cooldown of this ability is affected by fast feet, so you can actually get it, proccing pretty fast, potentially 20-second cooldown. So, level 7, do you have to go for the Cleanse?
Unless you're going Serpent build, the Cleanse is the way to go because it not only is it less cooldown than, original Cleanse, which is 60, it's 40, and the cooldown reduction is affected by fast feet. So you could have a below 40-second cooldown Cleanse that also heals somebody. That's insane.
Is this suddenly going to make Lili, viable and competitive? Because Cleanse is very powerful in competitive play, and I mean, if you've got Cleanse on a very low cooldown, I guess it depends how the rest of her stuff's tuned, but in a double healer meta, hey, maybe Lili's going to find a place.
Yeah, I think she will be just for the Cleanse. I don't think her other abilities weren't being powerful enough for competitive, but I might be wrong. But yeah, this Cleanse is really, really strong.
I guess we'll find out in January when HGC starts up again. Level 13, we've got Gale Force, not the esports team. Increases the duration of Blinding Wind from 2 to 3 seconds, and Lili's basic attacks against blinded heroes deal 50% more damage. Surging Winds. If Blinding Wind hits 2 heroes, Lili gets 10% spell power for 10 seconds, and the cooldown is reduced by 3 seconds. And then finally, Mass Vortex. Blinding Wind hits an additional target. If all target hits are heroes, they take 75% increased damage from Blinding Wind. So this is kind of like where the blinds come in, and you're forced to take a blinding talent of some sort. Which one is the best of the bunch?
I think they're all really good. Gale Force is more situational because Lili's basic attacks deal increased damage against blinded targets, but it affects all blinded targets. So Surging Winds is really good because it's really easy to hit 2 people with Blinding Winds as long as you're close enough, which you should be because you're trying to take a little bit of damage, right? And then Mass Vortex, if all heroes are hit, they take 75% increased damage from Blinding Winds, and it hits an additional target. So, that's a little bit harder. Being in range of 2 people is much easier than being in range of 3 people, but it's still pretty good.
It used to be 4 targets too. I feel like the blind build is a little bit more a higher skill cap than it used to be with Lili. I mean, I guess Lili's just higher skill cap in general with this new talent tree, which is, I guess, what Blizzard was going for. Level 16, we've got 2 for 1. Healing Brew heals 2 allies, but cooldown is 1 second longer. Pick Me Up, Healing Brew heals for 33% more if the target's under 50% life. And Blessings of Yulon. Cloud Serpent attacks heal its bearer for an additional 1.5% of their maximum life. What are you thinking here, Mystic?
Now, if you're going for the Serpent build, the Blessing of Yulon is the one that you want. And you want to put it on, you know, whoever, or even your tank. Your tank is the best target to put it on because it does percentage of their maximum life healing, so that's really good. Other than that, I believe Pick Me Up is the best option here. It's more generally used if you haven't gone the Serpent build, just because if your targets are below 50% health, then you get that 33% healing. Yeah.
Now, do the bounces, if you spec into dragon bouncing attacks, do those count for the Blessings of Yulon, or is it just 1.5% maximum health back to you every time the Cloud Serpent throws out one auto attack? Do you know?
I don't know 100% sure, but in my head I was kind of assuming that they did, because the level 7, right? Cloud Serpent's attacks bounce for two additional heroes for 50% damage and healing. Now on 16, Cloud Serpent attacks heal their bearer for an additional 1.5 of their maximum life. So I'm assuming that the bounces heal for 0.75% of their maximum life, or I could also see it being the other way where it's just the initial attack, but something to test.
Something to play with, that's for sure. Then level 20, Jug of 1 million cups. Jugs heals 2 allies at a time. Double Dragon, after hitting a target with a Water Dragon, a second is cast from its impact location. Mistweaver, activate to heal all nearby allies. 30-second cooldown on this one. The cooldown on this ability is reduced by 1 second each time you or your Cloud Serpent attacks. So it's pretty spammable, actually. But though it is less than a Q heal by a small margin too, if you look at the numbers. And finally, Shake It Off. While Fast Feet is active, gain 8 armor per second, up to a maximum of 30 armor. What are you looking at here? This Mistweaver talent looks awfully enticing.
Looking at all these talents, I think Shake It Off is the best talent of this tier. So while Fast Feet is active, you gain 8 armor per second, which means that as long as you're taking damage, you can just have 30 armor for free. And if you really wanted to, you could activate Safety. What was that talent?
Safety Sprint?
Yeah, Safety Sprint. You can activate that, and that gives you 2 seconds of Fast Feet already. So you already have 16 armor. You run in there, and then you take more damage, and then you get more armor. Mistweaver, I tested it a little bit. Unless the Cloud Serpent bounces also reduce the cooldown by 1 second each, I think it's a bit undertuned, because like you said, it's less than a Q by a little bit. I mean, it is AoE, but less than Lili's Q. Come on, that's really, really low, especially on a 30-second cooldown.
Yeah, and I guess if you're comparing it to something like Storm Shield, Storm Shield's a larger heal, or larger shield, I guess, a heal equivalent in an AoE, so it does do a little bit more better burst mitigation, whereas, you know, Mistweaver is on the same talent tier as your typical Storm Shield. So, you know, if it's not outputting that much, then you gotta look at it and say, you know, is it a worthwhile level 20 to be taking compared to the other ones? All right, well, that's Li's rework, and incidentally enough, that's our show. We don't have a Mystic Shakedown this week. Next week, hopefully, we'll be doing a HOTS debate, which we've been putting off since before BlizzCon, just because of the way things have been shaking out with LiQuid or Mystic being gone, and other just news items dropping and pushing content to the next shows. So hopefully we'll get a chance to talk about that. And the debate topic we want to talk about is actually cleanse, and whether it's healthy or not for Heroes of the Storm. So interesting, a little bit more fodder here too, now that Lili kind of got, you know, an upgraded version of cleanse. So maybe Blizzard isn't trying to edge it out like we all thought they were. But that being said, I'm going to close off the show here. So thank you all for listening to the Nexus Trolls, a Heroes of the Storm podcast, which we stream live on our Twitch channel, twitch.tv/trollsgg, every week on Wednesdays at 7:30 p.m. Eastern, 4:30 p.m. Pacific. So, Mystic, where can people find you if they're looking for you on the internet?
You can find me at Mystic Shroud on Twitter.
You can find me at DazHots on Twitter. This is I think the first week I haven't actually made fun of you for your Twitter account. I feel like it's actually getting to a respectable place now, so maybe I should stop doing that. And I want to thank all our patron supporters over at patreon.com/trollsgg. If you like the show and you're looking for a way to support us, you can do so over there. You can also subscribe to our show on iTunes, Google Play, Stitcher, YouTube, or wherever you happen to find your podcasts online. You can also visit our website at trolls.gg/TheNexusTrolls to watch this and past shows, along with past video streams, which also can be found on our YouTube channel. For announcements about the show and general Here's the Storm news, you can follow us on Twitter at @TheNexusTrolls. If you want to hang out with us and the Trolls community in-game, you can /join TrollsGG, one word, in-game, or you can join our Discord channel. The information there is at trolls.gg/Discord. Finally, if you need to get in touch with us, the best way is by email at TheNexusTrolls@trolls.gg. Mystic, thanks again for helping me host. LiQuiud, we missed you, bud. Can't wait to see you next week. If you're looking again for Troll and HGC, there's no episode today. We'll have an episode on Monday for you with Yitboss and Trent, along with LiQuiud and Bags at 7:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Everyone, thanks for listening. Have a great week. Oh, geez, where's my bumper? There it is.